You're listening to SM Media.
Hi, folks, and welcome to your latest episode of the Rangers Assessment, your SM Media podcast for all things Rangers. I'm Scott McPike. It is always a pleasure to be your host. I feel we've been down this road before. I feel we know the ending of this particular cycle. And I think myself and my guest tonight have been down this particular road before. It is a pleasure to welcome from the Every Other Saturday podcast, Jack Hamilton.
Cheers for having us on again. It seems like it's going to be much more of the same for just shy a year ago in it. So, looking forward to getting into it, but I don't think there'll be much positive to say at the moment.
November's always a month where you're just like, you just feel this kind of pit of your stomach, this just depressing thing kicking in. It's either a manager leaving or one particular result. And for the past 4 seasons, it's been manager leaving, obviously different circumstances. Now, we should say, we're not recording this before the WhatsApp rumours have started. Like, Philippe Clement is still Rangers manager, but Jack, that's the thing. It's more like if not when. And when that gets to that stage, it kind of feels just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think when everybody saw the murmurings of that came out a couple of hours ago, kind of thinking, right, maybe the board are actually going to do something here. Maybe there's going to be a big call made to salvage what's left of this season. I mean, we're only at the end of November and we're already saying this, like multiple points behind Aberdeen and Celtic. It's just not good enough. And yesterday, much more of the same as we saw pretty much in every league game this season, bar maybe the Ross County one. Just really not good enough. I think there's the last two managers have been sacked for a lot less than what's currently happening. It's as if obviously the finances at the club, the contract that Clement's on, seem to be kind of holding him at the club at the moment and leaving the board with a tough decision to make and our finances and stuff. And it's just not really a good look at the moment. And it does feel that it has to happen soon because the fans are getting really kind of um, putting the board and the club under an immense amount of pressure now.
I should say this, and I've been quite vocal about this. I don't think it matters what manager's in there at the moment. The club, from top to bottom, has been an absolute calamity for 2.5 years. Probably since Gerrard left, let's be honest. Like, I always go back to that Gerrard interview where he says about a launch pad, and that's certainly not happened. And you can see the kind of decline quite drastically since then, and you can see the bad decisions that are just one after another and after another. I do think Philippe Clement has had to deal with a lot of stuff that he said during the week in his press conference. There's been things in my table that shouldn't have been. I get what he means there, but also on the other side of that, if I can see results being an issue, right? Because we have to look at it. This squad isn't good enough to challenge for a title. We said that at the start of the season. Nobody was hiding from that. But you have to see some sort of style of play. That's why I think Gerrard get as long as he did, because even if the results weren't coming in, like I remember a particular game against Hamilton where he lost 1-0 at home, and you could see the kind of how deflated he was. But you knew there was a bit of patience because you'd seen enough evidence to go, right, this is the guy. Give him a bit more time and let's kind of fine tune it, and it will work and eventually leads to a title. I'm not seeing that with Clement. I'm not seeing a style of play. I'm not seeing performances. I'm not seeing players giving 100%. We saw that with the two that went off at half time. We'll get into the game in a minute. There's just no evidence for me that at the moment, and I am more patient than most people in terms of managers, there's nothing there to say at the moment Philippe Clement is going to get this right. And we're looking at it. We've just watched Tottenham beat Man City 4-0. We've just seen Celtic beat Hearts 4-1. They're coming. They will Rangers play them in December. It could be really, really sore nights, and I don't see anything other than that. And when it gets to that stage, I'm just like, well, there's nothing else to do. The contract in the summer was a shambles, right? Let's not kid ourselves here. We said that at the time. When you've had this recurring theme of sacking managers midway through a season, to give a manager a 4-year deal, basically because you want to be seen to be securing the future. If you're in this position, that 4-year deal looks absolutely ridiculous. And it's just one decision after another that has led Rangers to this moment where you're basically keeping a manager in because you can't afford to sack him. And the two managers that people are talking about bringing in, Muscat was second in the list when you chose Clement, and McInnes, you didn't. He turned you down 6 years ago, and you're going to go back to him. It's just every single department, every single thing revolving Rangers at the moment is just garbage, and that's the kind of best word to describe it.
Aye, I mean, I can't not agree with anything that you've just said there. I think the contract in the summer was a big, massive red flag where this board see Rangers and see Clement as
Yes.
the manager of Rangers. Obviously, people, maybe me at the time as well, I looked at it and thought, right, maybe we're building for a bit of stability. But the way we ended the season was so dismal.
Yeah.
We had everything in the palm of our hands. I mean, we had a good result away at Benfica in the Europa League. We were performing pretty well, and it just all came to a crash. And I think we've seen that too much through Beale and through obviously Gio, and obviously Gerrard did points to that as well. But you rightfully mentioned Gerrard was given time because we could see exactly the mentality he wanted to instill into Rangers Football Club that was missing for all those years, and we needed somebody to kind of just believe in, and he was that guy at the time, and we obviously all got around him. The name helps as well, Steven Gerrard, icon of football, but he was obviously warranted time and probably didn't get what he deserved either. Obviously, that interview after we won the league and fix the roof when the sun's still shining and stuff, we get 2 free transfers after that, and it's just from that moment. From that moment, obviously, Gerrard kind of, I think he kind of started to lose patience and maybe try to find a way out. And then obviously Gio and Beale kind of followed the same suit, and we're obviously kind of paying for Beale's mistakes at the moment and
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
what he did in the transfer window, which has kind of impacted Clement's business. But Clement's still spent the better part of 15 million since he's been here. Diomande, obviously the obligation to buy Cortez is a big one. He's never really kicked the ball for Rangers. I mean, the list is kind of endless of players that have came to this club, and I still think we have good players there, just coached really, really poorly. And it's just a really sad moment for Rangers Football Club where you don't even really want to go to the games anymore. You don't want to switch the telly on and watch the game. It's just negative discourse on Twitter. There's zero to look forward to at the moment, and obviously removing the manager is what the board have done time and time again to kind of show, oh, we are doing what the fans want to do. But this time the issue definitely does stem really towards them. You've seen protests obviously from the Union Bears, and just for the summer for the fans in general, it's been really, really toxic for the start of the season. We kind of just accepted it was going to be a transition season. We weren't going to win anything. It was right, get the players in, try and develop some players, see how we do. There was no aspiration for obviously the Rangers fans. I didn't think we were going to go and do anything this season, but still the way we're playing, it's just don't even have words for it, honestly.
See though, like that's an interesting one. Transitional season, I think, is an interesting point because, as I keep saying, see if I think a lot of people would have been of the mindset if you can finish second, right? If you can finish second comfortably, which I still think is realistic because I don't think Aberdeen, as impressive as they've been, I don't think they can maintain this for a season. We saw the first kind of crack in them against Celtic, and then obviously they lost at the weekend. So it's not out of the realms of possibility that the Rangers finish second, right? But if you're able to do that, and I do think Celtic will win the league by 15, 20 points. I do think they'll be running away with it, to be honest. The problem I've got is that again, I'm not seeing enough here to go, right, this is a transitional season and this is the right guy. And I was very much the opposite when Clement came in. I saw instantly, I saw him saying the right things about the fitness, about the way the club was kind of was performing in terms of certain kind of analytics. And then I've seen this stubbornness approach. Now, anybody with any sort of football mindset, and I'm not saying that we are like top of the range pundits. We're not. We're fans that are covering this. That like we're fans that are obviously looking at this game. It's been clear for a long, long time that this 4-2-3-1 doesn't work, and he's still persisting with it. He's persisting with the same players. Like Dessers again. We will cover him when we get into the game, but he's persistent with this same formation. He's spent, what, £4 million in Bayrami? And
Yeah,
he's playing
probably.
him out left wing because there's nobody else. When obviously he's clearly better suited. That's what he's been brought in for, to be that kind of number 10. And he's been pushed out left because of injuries. I get that. But if you are moving your kind of main creative player out left because you don't have anybody else, surely you look at, right, how can I get my best players in their best positions? I mean, that sort of thing, just things like that, persisting with a striker who's clearly out of confidence and even on his day isn't somebody I would hang my hat on. Like, the defence has been an absolute calamity in some cases. Like, it's not working. The system he's using isn't working. So why, when you're 11 points behind, and you said two managers have been sacked with the point tally less than what it is now, why are you persisting with this? That just screams of it's Advocat and Le Guin levels of stubbornness, and we saw how it ended with them. This is going the same way. Gio was the same, couldn't get out of that approach. That's the main thing. That's the big thing for me. Yes, it's 11 points, and I said it last night. 11 points is a sackable offence. Not beating Celtic in 5 games is a sackable offence. But this persistence of a formation that is clearly not working against these low blocks, like performances, you can count in one hand the domestic performances this season. Like Ross County in a half maybe against Motherwell. And that's all I can think of. Like, I've not enjoyed watching Rangers this season apart from the Malmo and the Stoya game. Like, every single game has been pretty garbage and the performance has been off. And when you're persisting with that formation, again, it's just not looking good. It's just a red flag, as you say.
Yeah, it's totally just, it feels like naivety for Clement as well. He's been here for a year now. He should know that that system isn't going to work against teams with, as he said yesterday in his statements after the game, last season we win that game. We have the quality to be able to get it over the line, which is true. But that result's kind of been coming because of how stubborn we've been in the league and how we just can't score enough goals to put teams away. And I think similar to Gio and his kind of management style, he's really great in Europe. Like, again, he'll go away, Olympiacos, set up brilliantly, will obviously be the underdog in that game. But I think when Rangers need to be the team on top, they need to be the team that's firing, they need to be the team that's playing a style of football that's attractive to get the game won, then it doesn't really look as clean as it does in Europe. And it wouldn't surprise me we go away to Nice and get a decent result,
Yeah.
because this is exactly what this team is kind of all about. But I think if any fans saw a change in formation, whether it was trying a new style, I think a three at the back with some with wing backs would actually suit us really well because of the lack of wingers we have.
Yeah.
Try something different. Play by Rami in the middle. You could then have Cherny obviously behind Dessers, whatever. You just try and do something. Promote some youth players. Give them a chance. Like, if you could see anything where he's trying to change something, then I feel there would be a lot less pressure on him, because then he can obviously get behind them, his ideas. But aye, that's just not happening at the moment.
And obviously into the game on Saturday, obviously it wasn't plain sailing by any stretch of imaginations. Even before kick-off, we obviously had Storm Bert, which played a part on a lot of people's. I was actually surprised I think it was just over 47,000. So again, like, it's a massive crowd for a like circumstance. I mean, I wasn't leaving my house under any circumstances, so I'm admiration for 47,000 people that did. But obviously Dundee United, the kick-off to delayed. Dundee United were basically like they had a bit of a shambolic journey to the ground. Now, again, that's another thing as well that I want to touch on. Dundee United were on the road, I believe, from what I heard, speaking to a couple of people, for 4.5 hours. They didn't get enough time to do a warm up. They arrived at the ground at 3 o'clock. They had to, obviously, it took them about 52 minutes to get on the park. They weren't obviously able to do their normal pre-match routine. Who's the side in the first half that looks flustered? It's not a side that's been stranded for 4.5 hours, struggling to get to a game. Like, there was nothing of that performance in the first half, or nothing at all. Like, there was no creativity. It just looked. You would think it was Rangers that were the trouble, not Dundee.
Yeah.
Dundee United looked dead up for it, whereas Rangers just looked sluggish, which is a theme of this season.
No, it's totally just like every league game at Ibrox away from home. Obviously, the last game after the international break was the Kelly loss, I think, as well. That was an absolute slog of a game. We don't really seem to start games really well at all. It's always like the second half you'll come to life after you've obviously yesterday conceded the goal. You're behind, you need to have a reaction in the second half, or it's just obviously not good enough, and they get booed off the pitch time and time again. I mean, the stat for me that just really just winds me up is the fact that we're only the games that we've won in the league this season, we've only won by one goal, apart from I think St Johnstone and Ross
Ross
County.
County. Yeah.
Every other games we're winning 2-1, 1-0. Obviously, yesterday we got that sucker punch, and the other team, Dundee United, were up for it and gave us a run for our money, and we couldn't be that kind of lackadaisical and just sit on one goal. We had to obviously fight our way back into the game, and the first half was just embarrassing for Rangers standards again. It's just they had a couple of off chances by Rami, had one that went kind of by the post, but apart from that, like nothing for Rangers in an attacking standpoint, and just too many passengers again, really, in the first half, and obviously two of them were subbed in the second half, rightfully so.
Yeah. Before obviously getting into those changes, though, there was obviously the United took the lead in the 36th minute. Really nice ball. Now, I'm not going to say, I do. I want to get your thoughts on what you think the issue is here defensively, because proper as, and it's not the only time in the game where a Dundee United player had a free head on the box. It was actually about 3 or 4 times I noticed it. Jeff Day's kind of caught in no man's land as well. Proper's just, I don't know what's happening there. Butland kind of doesn't have the confidence in either of them, so he decides to try and come out. Gets to a stage where he's like, I don't really think I should. He stumbles, and Dobby's got a free header, and it's 1-0 Dundee United. That goal, again, people will look at the clean sheets this season. People will look at the stats and think, oh, Rangers have showed up defensively. There's still mistakes in that team, and that was a perfect example. But I want to get your thoughts on where you thought the liability was for that goal.
Yeah, I think obviously the cross coming into the box anyway is a big one. Should be trying to block
Yes.
that for coming in straight away. Obviously, there's a massive gap in the middle of the defence, which you would point at Proper for that. I think he's maybe two over, near enough into John Souttar's eye line of the ball. And then obviously Yefty maybe being a bit more aware and a bit more kind of switched on, could shuffle over and try and cover that position. But I think Robin Proper's just, I don't know where he's trying to go. I don't know what he's trying to do. He's far too close to Souttar. It's just a really amateur bit of defending, really, for the back line, but I think Proper definitely at fault for that one. I think he's just stuck nowhere when he should be in his position, really.
Robin Proper's an interesting one because I've got his stats up here, right? And he's played 395 games in his career, right? Now, these are not all kind of professional games, right?
Yeah.
These are just transfer market stats I've got here. And there's a stat here that he's played 312 of them in the right side of centre back. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't impressed me at all, right? And I do watch a lot of Dutch football, so I have seen him before he came to Rangers. He's not a left sided centre back. And I keep saying it, he's
Mhm.
not suited to that position. Now, there has been times this season where, like a couple of games where he's looked okay, but most of the times this season he's looked way off it. Now, Suter has to get credit because I thought for the part of the two games, obviously for Scotland, I thought Suter was tremendous. So he is capable, but bringing in Proper to play him at left-sided centre back, to just because you know Suter can't play that position, I do think that's another red flag for me because clearly wanted a left-sided centre back, didn't get it, brought in experience. Cassim Weirdro's obviously going to be out for a while, so now you've got Balogun, Suter, Proper. Suter's obviously got injury issues as we've seen in the past. Has been solid. I'm not going to take it away from him. Balogun's 36 and Proper's out of form. So
Yep.
that and all is another problem.
Yep. No, big time. I think you could obviously Casemiro was pretty positive whenever you saw him as well.
Yeah,
You were kind of hoping he would be the guy that would
it's
maybe take that position.
that black cat running through Ibrox in it. That's what that is. What's
Yeah.
happening?
It just seems to be no luck. Always big time injuries as well. Never just a knock or a couple of weeks out. Looks to be a long term one for him. But I think thinking back to the formation as well, it could maybe suit Robin proper to be playing in a back three. You could maybe
Yeah,
push Dujon Sterling into the centre half area where he could be that guy that could obviously get down the line, but also he can be covered defensively as well. I think we've got the players to play that kind of formation for me, and it seems to benefit every. Bayrami's not a left a left winger, playing more
no.
centrally. Proper's not a left-sided centre half, play him kind of more centrally or on the right. And you've got like guys like Yefty who can bomb forward and be really good attacking wise. And I think again maybe the scouting as well. You're looking for that kind of experience. He popped up. He was a good, obviously, buy at the time, captain FC20. You're not kind of going to grumble at that. But I think he's came in. He's looked far too lightweight. Obviously, the position maybe doesn't help his case as well. But there's still a lot to be desired for Robin Proper because the players that we've had in that position recently, Ben Davies and that, he kind of seems a similar mould.
You do see it a lot. You do see foreign defenders coming into Scotland, like Cardozo being a very good example of that. Players coming in who clearly have a level of ability, but the physicality edge of the balls coming into the box, the physical strikers that they play against all the time, that sometimes don't suit it. Proper could be another example of that. I wouldn't be surprised if Proper's maybe away in January. Like I just don't think he's got the physical presence that Rangers need. But again, it's another problem. It's another there's two positions that need filled in that defensive area because you've absolutely no cover. Leon Balogun shouldn't be a third choice option. No disrespect to him, but he's not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's getting on a bit, and that defensive area is a massive concern. But the first half, there was literally no positives to take from an attacking point of view. Dessers again, another game, touches the ball 8 times in the first half, three times in the Dundee United box. He's very much out of confidence, right? You can see that, very much out of form and low in confidence. You can see that, but he's also now reached a stage with the support that doesn't matter what he does. He's just know the answer,
No.
and you see that in the second half with Danilo coming in. Danilo, who clearly is still behind in sharpness and still, I think he buries the chance in the second half if he's got more sharpness in him. But the one he just drags by,
Yeah.
I think he buries that, and I think there was another couple of chances where he maybe, well, a better version of him maybe takes them. But Dessers has just reached a point where you're like, you're not going to do anything other than we've seen the best. We've seen as much as we can see now to draw the assumption that you'll just know the answer.
Yeah, that's as simple as that with Cyril Dessers. I mean, he scored some important goals this season at the very start of it. I remember he was kind of the only one that you would look at that kind of dig you out a hole at times, which is mental considering where we are now with him. But obviously when he came into the club last season, there was immediate kind of fan pressure on his back. He then obviously get the fans kind of back on side towards the end of the season. Finished with a respectable goal tally towards at the end of the last season. Sorry, came into this season, looked sharp enough, and then just fell off a cliff. And he's just not going to be good enough to lead a Rangers line. He's not got any attributes really at all that you can kind of pick off your head, like, top of your head and be like, he's good at that, he's good at this. He's not quick enough, he's not physical enough, he doesn't win balls in the air, he can't really hold up the ball. I think maybe the only thing that comes to my head is he's got a decent level of passing ability on him.
Yeah,
And for a striker, I mean, that's just not what you're after. And he's probably lucky that he's been fit for basically. I don't think he's ever really had an injury at Rangers, so he's been the only guy that we could select. There was obviously came out of roof last season, he was injured. Danilo has obviously been injured. Obviously, Hamza Eggman's going to need some time to kind of be a starting striker for Rangers, but obviously has good positive kind of attributes to him. I think if Clement has to do anything, it's take Dessers out of that team, and obviously Thursday Danilo's not going to be in the European squad. That's probably the time to try Eggman in a game in Europe and try him for the start, see how he goes. Because Dessers is it's getting laughably, like comically bad that he's obviously touching the ball 8 times. He's not affecting the game at all. He's basically playing as if we're playing with 10 men a lot of the time, and it's not good enough.
the other kind of player who was substituted at half time is Mohamed Diamandi. Now, I have to be honest, when he signed, I was really excited. I'd watched about a few things about him, kind of heard some things, and was very positive about him. But since he's been in now, obviously, like it's been difficult to analyse because he had a couple of injury problems. He has scored a few goals, but there's been times where he's just been. There's times he's put in some really good performances. I thought he was excellent against Malmo, but there's times where he's been pretty much anonymous, and Saturday was one of those days. Where are we kind of at with Diamande? Because like Saturday was the first time where I really thought like I and when there's very little sellable assets at the club, he's always been the one I've felt since he came in. I'm like, right, he's the kind of next stage of the recruitment process. It was really smart how they brought him in. Big money spent in the summer, as we've said. And I always thought it would be like he could be the one to kind of move on. He could be the next big sale. But he's been very, very inconsistent. And I don't really know where he fits at the moment in this system.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where you're at with Diamande. Started off his Rangers career in really good form. Obviously coming in pretty much for the get-go, starting games, scoring against Hearts, scoring against St Johnstone. Looked really positive, was good away to Benfica as well. So he could hang with the kind of players at that level. You could see he was a good player, but I think again, maybe just it seems like everybody's kind of fell off a cliff this season. I don't know if it's the coaching standards behind closed doors, the training, just the ideas for the coach. I think there's just it's not getting the best out of Diomande, and obviously he's been tried next to Raskin, sorry, Barron, pretty much the only two midfielders we had for a
Yeah.
couple of months here at the start of the season. It's now obviously Raskin and Barron that are in there looking good, which means Diomande has to move forward because Lawrence is out, but he's not really creating anything. He does some nice flicks and turns, and he's always basically a stick on to get a booking every game. But I mean, apart from that, he just looked lost out there when he's playing that position. And as you say, a guy you're paying £4.5 million for, who apparently had a lot of suitors as well for where he came from in Nordsjælland, produced some really good talent. Us getting him felt like a really big coup at the time. I mean, now we're looking at him and being like, right, why did we pay £4.5 million for this guy in January when we needed a striker to win us the league? There's always going to be that bit of reflection on that for last January. But I think he's a good player with good attributes. I just don't think Clement's the manager to really get the best out of him, and I think he's kind of suffered this season for how poor we've been in attacking areas and how kind of there's been a lot of demand on him. Him and Barron anyway to be the two ball winners in the middle of the pitch, and there's nobody really in front of them that's creating. Lawrence doesn't do a lot of running really, and it kind of leaves him fighting a wee bit isolated in the pitch. But for me, I still think he's a good player. I still think given a bit of time and maybe another coach that comes in, I guess we're all waiting on that or Clement to be sacked inevitably. So I think another coach could maybe get the best out of Diamande with a different style of play.
Into the second half, Hadji and Danilo obviously come on for Dessers and Diamande. I do obviously think the performance did pick up in the second half. It couldn't have get any worse, to be fair. I thought Hadji brought a level of creativity. Danilo thought some of his link up with Cherny was very good, and we'll get into Cherny in a minute, but they did improve in the second half. Cherny gets the equaliser, lovely finish, lovely bit of link up play with him and Danilo. That's not something that I think that's something we will see because Cherny and Danilo did have a good relationship when they were in Holland together. I do expect Cherny and Danilo to form a wee link up kind of going forward. Cherny's been an interesting one because he's clearly quite one-dimensional in terms of we know he's a left-footed winger playing on the right side, but he's coming. Do you know what I mean? He's shown up himself a lot yesterday. He's rising to the occasion, takes his goal really well. I do think at that stage of the season we're already like, if Cherny wasn't in the side, I think Rangers would be in a lot more trouble. Like he's picked up his game. I would say since Leon. I'd say since the Leon game. I think he's been probably Rangers' best player.
Oh, aye, definitely. I mean, the turnaround in Clement's Rangers career has been gigantic, really, because missing an open goal against Leon and missing a one-on-one away at Malmo, people are like, what have we signed this guy? He's played in the Bundesliga and that. Like, there was massive criticism. There was even criticism to the point where people thought, he's not going to see out his loan here because he's getting too much abuse and whatever. But I think it shows the mentality in the market, the man that he's been able to, with a tough season at Rangers so far, being able to turn it around for himself, be the kind of main guy, and it shows that when we went to Aberdeen away, and he's injured and you need to look to Ross McCausland as your next option there. It's vital that he kind of stays fit and plays. And he's gained a lot of respect for me. I think he's a good player. You could see he was a good player. I think it was just trying to figure out how to play in Scotland because I mean, his goal against Motherwell was like, right, he's going to bang these in
Yeah.
every game now. But obviously, teams wisened up, sharpened up to the way he was going to be, and he's had to develop his play a wee bit, and he's definitely become a lot more assured on the ball. Doesn't give the ball away a lot anymore, and he's becoming our focal point attack. And as you say, if we didn't have him, we'd be in danger at the moment. And if he keeps going and others follow suit, that'd be lovely. But Cherny's about the only one at the moment you can really say, right, he's really showed up in the last month or so.
Obviously, he gets equaliser. There are a few chances. Obviously, Igaman comes on. He has a couple of chances. Forces a good save from Jack Walton in the last minute. But despite the performance picking up in the second half, you never ever really felt that Rangers were going to win that game. You just had do you know what I mean? It just didn't feel, and
Yeah,
even if it did feel like a win, it would still be, we'd still be having these conversations. I don't think, even if obviously the points would have made a difference, but Rangers are third in the Premiership, 11 points behind Celtic, and closer to sixth than they are to second. Like, we're in November, and it was the boos at half time were very, very loud, but you got to the end of the game. Obviously, the I think a lot of fans shared the kind of low confidence that I had, and they didn't really think there was. So that's why the boos weren't as loud. But there's just this. It's beyond the anger stage now with a lot of fans. It's
yeah,
just this waiting for the inevitable. Like
yeah,
it just, as you say, there's just no enjoyment watching Rangers at the moment. But if you're going there on a day like yesterday, you're expecting some level of performance. And yes, it was better in the second half. But the only reason it was better in the second half was because it couldn't have been any worse first half.
yeah,
And Clement's kind of post match as well. Like sometimes I see where he's coming from in terms of right, if this is how we play, we'll win that game. And if he said if we play that, if we win that game last year, it's not. These again are the same problems that we've seen all season. The performances aren't good. He's sticking with the same system. It's just there's really nothing to take at the moment.
yeah. There's just the second half, as you say, was obviously an improvement. It had to be. We got the goal. We again, as we say, maybe if we had an extra bit of quality that we did last season, maybe won the game. But 98 minutes I think in total we played. We were never going to score the second goal. It was just locked in at that point that we were going to draw. His comments after the game do himself really no favours. I think you'd want to get the fans behind you, not kind of.
What do you think that is? Because I thought in his early spell, I thought it was really really good. Some of his interviews, but see since the kind of the dip last season,
Yeah,
it's been really really weird. Some of the things he's been saying, and I don't know what it is. Is it getting more acclimatized to the Scottish media? I don't know what it is, but at times I'm just like, you're just babbling.
yeah. I think you mentioned there the drop off of last season. I think it was Dundee we drew 0-0 with,
Yeah,
and he came out and said it was a better performance than Ross County when we get beat. And it's like, I mean, we're going for a title here. We need to win this game. It
yeah.
was postponed about 4 times, and we still couldn't get the victory. And I think he just really does himself no favors. I think you see the discourse on Twitter, you see the replies to the tweets that he's involved in when they get put out. It's just constant negative abuse, and that's the way the fans feel. I think the attendances obviously yesterday was okay for the circumstances with the snow and stuff, but I mean, at half time it looked pretty pretty empty. I think that the attendances are going to continue to drop and drop, and people are not going to be wasting their Saturday to go and see a team that can't deliver a performance that's warranted the amount of money that you're paying for a ticket. I think it's like 40 odd quid a ticket for a league game, and you're not getting that. You're not getting that repayment back on the pitch, and
No.
I think a lot of fans are just going to chuck it, and it's a hard thing to do because it's a club you love, it's a club you support. You love going to the football for, obviously, you work all week to be able to do those things, and it's just getting to the point now where it's just depressing the life out of you. Even thinking about Rangers, looking at anything to do with Rangers, watching Rangers at the weekend, it's just there's no enjoyment through anything that the club do, and I don't think a manager change really does solve the issues, as you say, but there just has to be mass repairs to the club, and God knows how they're done.
Well, it's obviously like we'll go on to Nice obviously at the end, but your next three games in the league are away to St Johnstone, home to Kilmarnock, away to Ross County, and that's in the space of a week. Now it's 11 points just now. That's 9 points. That has to be 9 points.
Yeah,
It's non-negotiable. But one thing interesting yesterday was obviously James Tavernier obviously didn't start. Sterling played at right back, but he didn't even bring him on. Now, I'm not saying here, I've been very vocal that I think Tavernier's probably done.
yeah,
But how many times over the last kind of 4 or 5 seasons has it been Tavernier will do something? Like to not even have him on, I think as well. And I'm not advocating for it. I just thought it was interesting that he was usually the guy that would maybe pull you out a hole like that, and now he's nowhere near. So who else is going to do it
yeah.
like that? Like at
No, no.
Tavernier, like what happens there? Like that's another one as well that's going to need addressed.
Yeah, I mean, even you think last season, Hearts at Ibrox, one of Clemont's kind of first games, we were 1-0 down in the 90th minute, ended up
Yeah,
winning
ball with
2-1
Danilo. Yeah,
because the ball into Danilo was just inch perfect. And I don't think we've really got anybody like that in the squad anymore. Like obviously Tavernier's regressed.
yeah,
You've got you've got Bayrami who you're not getting the best out of. You've got Dessers who can't really kick his own arse. You've got Lawrence, obviously, it could pop up with a goal now and then. You've got Danilo, obviously, with being sharper, he probably, as you say, finishes the chance that he gets yesterday and is a good player, I think. Czerny, you can only rely on Czerny for so much. He's already get you the goal to get back into the game. He's been unlucky that he was offside for the other one a couple of minutes after that,
yeah,
but you're looking at even like the bench, like Kieran Dowell's still on that bench. You would probably much prefer a Zach Lovelace to be on that bench. Just chuck MD on. Obviously, Finlay Curtis in the B team has been, by all accounts, scoring every game. Like, what's the harm in just putting these guys into the team? And you would get a lot more credit in the bank with the support if you're actually trying something different and throwing a young guy on to try and make a difference. But I think at the moment that's one of the biggest issues. Rangers aren't scoring goals because they don't have any quality, and there's no match winners in
no.
this team at all. And it's just, as we keep saying at the end of every statement, it's just a really sad state of affairs.
Yeah, and it's sort of that state of affairs that we mentioned. It's 11 points. I do. I have been probably more patient with Clement than a lot of people. Like I do think he's been dealt a bad hand, but I just don't see how he turns it round. Like I really, unless in Nice, as you say, in the less than the next 3 games, we were to see, as you say, like a monumental change in direction, monumental change in how he sets the side up, and they go and win 3-0, 3-0, whatever.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I might be like, right, he can maybe turn it round, but then it would be Tottenham and Celtic, and we would just feel back to square one. That's kind of where I'm at. It
Mm.
matter. Like something, the next result would just take us round the corner. It would just be a matter of time. Like Celtic, the Celtic Cup final, I can't see it going any other way. To be honest,
Yeah.
Tottenham, Tottenham scolded Man City for nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like they're
Aye.
going to come to Ibrox of an absolute field day, and more importantly and more dangerous, I think, is the Tottenham manager knows what's happening here. He knows that this is a weak Rangers team. This is probably weaker than the Rangers team he's played against.
Yep.
So he knows he's licking his chops coming here. But
Hmm.
obviously during the game there was a bit of news coming out. Now before we get into that, I want to just touch on the promotion of Niels Coppin during the week. Now obviously he was reported. He was obviously the head of recruitment. He's now been appointed as technical director. I don't really know what much difference that is, but again, Coppin's obviously been an interesting one. It's maybe just over a year, just under a year. Maybe he's been at the club,
Yeah, I think
and
December was when he came in.
yeah, and probably too early to say if he's been a success or not. But again, what's the kind of what's happened there? How's now the time to just go right? He's now the technical director. He's now got a bigger job. Like it's
Yeah.
things like that I just don't get. Who's making that decision now? Again, I've got a lot of time for John Gilligan, but at this point, I'm like, is he making that call? Especially when the news that comes out on Saturday. Like,
Hmm.
I just didn't really understand what the kind of situation is there.
Yeah, kind of similar to the Clement contracts extension, really.
Yeah,
What's warranted that happening. Niels Coppin obviously came in with quite a lot of kind of decent profile, to be honest with you, and you were thinking, right, this guy could maybe identify some interesting talents for us, and he did, to be fair. I think Cortez, obviously really unfortunate with the injuries and stuff, but you've seen for him in glimpses that he can be a good player. I still don't really get the sanction and the obligation to buy thing, but he's obviously a decent player. Diomandi's obviously got like decent qualities. Fabio Silva on loan at the time seemed like a decent deal to do, but um, I think he's identified some decent players. I think he's done a decent job for what we know that he does. He identifies players and we sign them, whatever. But aye, the promotion again just seems really kind of like the Clement extension. It seems like it's just like I feel like just take a contract extension, mate. Take a promotion. We're not getting anybody else in. And as I say, I don't know what a technical director does different either, but a guy that was a PSV scout a couple of seasons ago to now the technical director at Rangers seems really kind of eye-opening anyway to where this board's really want to take the club.
And then obviously on Saturday, while the game's going on, there was a whisper coming out. I think it was Robert Grieve in the Sun that reported this, that Rangers were closing in on the appointment of Baron Malcolm Offord as the club's new chairman. Now, obviously, we've all been screaming that there should be a chairman in as soon as possible. I don't know much about him. I know obviously I think he's definitely in the House of Lords. He is a member of the Tory Party. I think he was, from what I've kind of gathered, he's maybe more of a kind of business mind. Well, obviously, like that's what you want your chairman to be, but he's obviously coming in. He's got a massive job, and then at night we hear that I think it was Chris Jack saying that former Man United chief executive Patrick Stewart is expected to be announced as the club's CEO. Now, for how long it's been, 7-8 months where there's been no chief executive and then no chairman. They both get they both get kind of the news kind of comes in the same day.
Yep. No, it seems a bit strange.
I don't really know much about the two guys. Honestly, I'm trying to do a bit of digging kind of off and hopefully maybe have some more over the week on them, but it just seems a bit peculiar how they both then get the kind of news begins to break about them in the same day when there's an AGM just round the corner, which I think is going to be as toxic as the gazebo one. Like I genuinely think it could be as bad as that.
Yeah.
Like I wish them all the best. I really hope they're the right people, but they have got one almighty job in their hands. Like these are the two most important appointments I think in 10 years easily.
Yep, and that's where we are now. Like it took that long to get guys in prominent positions in the club to actually get us moving forward to some sort of direction. But it's taken that long to get, as you say, two guys in that have now been announced that they're going to join the club in the same day. I don't know if that's maybe been fed by the board to the media or whatever to take away for the poor results, but you just kind of I hope they're the right people. You hope they can come in and make a difference. As I say, I don't really know much about it either.
Have to, don't they? Like, they have to be the right. They need time. I get that, but like they need to hit the ground running really quickly. And how long? Like they could probably be appointed this week. Like, and unless it's a minor miracle, I don't see Clement turning it round. They're probably going to be appointing a new manager in the next maybe month.
It's just So it's a big way to start kind of your new job at the club, and the club's in complete kind of disarray and turmoil at the moment. To change that, it's obviously going to take years to uncover the damage that's been done. But I think at least if you have some of the right people that you can, I think more communication with the fans as well would be ideal. But obviously we're not going to hear everything that happens at the club. That's how selfish obviously we are as fans that we want to. But I think if we see good signs being made towards the direction of the club's going in, and they've obviously got a big call to make with Clement and see if they can kind of do something with that. They've got an almighty job on their hands of both of them, and we'll probably see that confirmed throughout this week, I would imagine. So, all the best, lads.
But there is another game. The games are coming thick and fast between now and the end of December. Rangers travel to France on Thursday night to face Nice in the Europa League. Sitting 8th in Ligue 1. Not the best start in Europa League. I think they've only got 2 points for the first 4 games. So they need points badly, so they'll be really needing a result here. So I imagine they'll be at full strength. It's the sort of thing though, you would fancy Rangers to go and beat Nice, but you wouldn't fancy them the week after against St Johnstone. Like it's genuinely like that at the moment. Nice are a decent side. You're not. Do you know what I mean? You're not in Europa League for France if you're not a decent side. They've got some decent players. Like they're playing right now. They've just kicked off literally the second
Yeah.
we're recording this. Some decent players in there, and Dombele that used to play with Tottenham's in there. The likes of Jeremy Boga, Evan Gessan. There's a few decent players who'll be quite eye catching. We know it's probably. I don't think he'll change the team too much because obviously he can't play Danilo, can't play Hadji. Mentioned does he maybe play Higaman in there? I'm I'm not really sure. Like again, it's just gonna be one of those games. It'll be like right, even if it's a win, it's like a good result. But Sunday, it won't change my opinion on Sunday. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like Europe's kind of an interesting one because like there's the two best performances this season have probably been in Europe, but it's it's not great at the moment. Like we're getting into a game against Nice where you're thinking right, not really. No, I'm not interested. I'm just like what happens. If it's a bad defeat, I don't think it will
Yeah.
change anything. Like, do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's really one of those games that it's just there at the moment.
Yep, it's just there for us to play and probably perform better than every single league game this season again as well. Like, I mean, Olympiacos I thought would be kind of similar, probably similar kind of level to Nice as a team. Like, I thought that would have been a tough game to go into. We ended up playing really well, got a draw out of it. Maybe on a better day, we win the game, and I think that is exactly what I was saying earlier. I think Clement's style and his vision for football, whatever it is, tends to just be better. In Europe, we seem to get the best out of the team, and I think it's just that idea of being the underdog team, the team that's going away from home and not really expected to get a result, but actually play well and get something out of the game. I think it'll be kind of similar to the Olympiacos game, as you say. They've got a couple of decent players. They're a kind of decent side in France, and obviously Clement's managed there before as well, so you should have
Yeah,
an idea about them. But there can't really be much surgery done to the team. I mean, you're probably if he doesn't start Egaman, he's obviously going to start Dessers. Maybe the only thing you could do, I don't know if Redvan's actually in the European squad
I
either,
think
but
he
you could
is. Yeah,
maybe, so you could maybe put Redvan in
I
left
wouldn't be
back. You could
surprised if
put
he throws Tab in.
the Tav as well, again, probably starts the game. There's not really much you can do that gets you excited anyway for the team selections. The guys that you're kind of want to be playing that kind of impressed you yesterday, Danilo and Hadji, are going to be sitting at home. So that's unfortunate in Europe this season. We've got enough points in the board. If we get a couple more, we've obviously got Spurs and Man United to come up as well. But aye, Europe's kind of been weird this season, as you say. I think it's because there's been just so poor in the league, and every time we play Thursday, Sunday, the Sunday game just is absolutely diabolical as well. So, aye, St Johnstone is definitely the bigger of the two at the moment because that could be the defining game really for Clement's future at the club. I don't think if he wins, loses, draws against Nice, it's going to
Nah.
again change much to appease the support either way. I think everybody's kind of in the right mind that he's not going to last too much longer.
Okay, then we will wrap up the show there. I want to thank my guest Jack for joining me this week, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Aye, thanks for having us on again. I appreciate it.
And it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I've enjoyed it despite the poor subject. But no, we will obviously be back next week with a new episode of the Rangers assessment. Well, obviously, the player ratings dropped yesterday for the Dundee United game. We'll have player ratings for the Nice game. There will be a new article going up in the ranked of Ali McCoy's signings. And if there's any breaking news, which again could very well be possible, we'll bring it to you on the channel. Thank you very much, folks, and we'll see you all soon.